Out here on the X today and kind of making a mini review on this bike and whether it was worth it, how do I feel about getting it, some of the upgrades I made, and ultimately I look at this bike now as I'm looking at it and everything about it is upgraded. It's basically just a frame with a bunch of parts on it. Now some of the parts of it I can put in a description, but you see the neck. This was part of the upgrade that I got from Poseidon itself. This bike is a quick release bike when you buy it in its stock form, when it's all compiled together. I even think the Generation 2 is a stockpile. It's quick release is stock, and so you can buy a kit with this, which comes with this new fork. You can see the quick release fork right here, and what I ended up doing is just not cutting it. And so because I like the ride height, the one thing I did when it was in its stock form, I felt like it was a little bit too low. It was probably down to here, and so I felt hunched over. And so ultimately when I took it into the mechanic, I took it into Bikes and Coffee on the Broke Gilman Trail. It's one of the places I go. And they were just like, hey, why don't you just not cut the fork and we'll install some spacers up there and you just see how it is. You can always cut it later. And I have never cut it. I've never felt the need to cut it. I have the Cospo bike computer. I made a video about that. Some of the other upgrades I've made. So ultimately this whole bike is pretty much just the frame. Everything else has been replaced. I've made a video about these handlebars, these alt handlebars, which I ended up loving. The main reason I wanted these bars was the sweep back position, and so as I'm riding it's swept back. Kind of has a funky look to it, but over time you kind of get used to it and it looks pretty awesome. Another thing I do like about this bike is the internal routing, but it's not fully internal from the headset. It goes in from the body like that, which I think is super cool. You don't expose the wires, and then there's a little piece underneath there where the wires come out. Because this bike was a flat bar, it was initially a flat bar, the Microshift flat bars. I decided to upgrade the brakes to hydraulic brakes as opposed to getting compression housing. Now the reason I ended up making the decision to go with hydraulic brakes is because I got the MT200s on AliExpress, and basically for the whole set, for the calipers down here, the calipers and the brake levers and the hosing, everything came in at under $60, where the compressionless housing was $60. And so that's one thing where I was like, these are the calipers. That's one of those things where I was like, price wise it's pretty comparable to getting the compressionless housing, because I brought in my regular housing. I bought regular housing by accident, and then the mechanic was like, why are you changing the housing? This is brand new housing. I was like, oh, I thought I wanted compressionless housing. And he was like, this isn't compressionless, this is just regular housing. So I bought the wrong type of Jaguar. And so ultimately he said, why don't you just put on something like M200s? Those will be fine. They'll work and they'll be good for you. And so I listened to his advice and I haven't regretted it. The hydraulic braking has been really awesome, you know, and in a place where there's a lot of downhills and a lot of gradient, I feel really safe on them, and so that's been really cool. The bike does come assembled with a square taper, which I changed. I made a video about that I don't like square taper cranksets, and that was one of my first over 1,000 view videos. And a lot of people had opinions about that. A lot of people were really respectful too about it and just gave their reasoning, so it wasn't like people were getting in the comment section and hating, but everyone has an opinion on that. I'm definitely I like hollowtech style cranksets way more. I got these rainbow cranks off AliExpress, and I made a video about those too. So I got to get a little flashy crank set, which I would definitely love. The pedals, metal pedals that I got off Amazon. And yeah, I'm a big fan of pretty much all styles of pedals. I like clipless also, but I really also like flat pedals, just because, you know, if you're going in and out of the house, it's nice and quick and easy to get off. I use these boots to ride with because they're waterproof and they work really well with them. This is more advice I got from a bike shop mechanic, free cycles in Fremont. The crotchety owner there, he was just like, yeah, he's crotchety. He's like on and off. Sometimes he's cool. Sometimes he's like, he hates everybody. But one day, in a moment of clarity, he's just like, yeah, man, I just ride in boots. And so ever since then, I've kind of gone for that. Also made a video about having a bike rack. This bike rack is a special one. You can see how it has 2 levels to it. This. You can put your pannier here and here. The reason for the 2 levels is that I was also riding with a Yep Maxi seat. And the max weight rating of this is 25 kilograms. So I had my son on this bike. This was when I had the Cannondale, I had this on it, but then I moved it to this bike. So this was the first, when we used to ride together, this was our first style of riding. I'd put the Yep Maxi seat adapter on top. And what that happened, when you put it on top, it blocks your ability to put a pannier. Now, even with it, you can't put the seat and the pannier at the same time, but you can have the adapter on and put your pannier down here. So that's something that I really like. And again, I'm going to put all the links in the description. So, you know, I'm a big rack fan, especially when you're commuting or going on leisurely rides. I love having a rack on the bike. I made a video about not using a backpack, and so this is one of the things that prevents me from having to do this. This has worked out really well. I've really enjoyed this bike rack. And then I have these fenders here. These are fenders that I kind of specific for gravel bikes. RBRL. I think I got these off Amazon or AliExpress, but they're really good in that they attach to the frame. There's no holes on this bike for a fender. There is one at the front, I feel, for a fender, but I just got the set of these, and I think the set of these together on Amazon was in the $30 range, which is really good because they're really easy to install also. And so that made it pretty those cool to put on. I've changed the seat since. The original seat that they came with, I didn't even bother riding it. It was just I got too big a butt for that, so I got this off AliExpress now. The one issue I have with this one is there is a little give in the bike. Now, it's not really a major issue in that I don't really feel it, but the way it's connected, it's not the way it's attached, but it's the way it's built. It does have a little bit of a give to it back and forth. It's not a huge deal. Is it the most comfortable one I've ever ridden on? It's okay. It's not amazing, but it's not bad either. Carbon seat post, and so that's also something that I got off AliExpress. And yeah, looking at this bike in total after a year, it's been really awesome. I upgraded pretty much everything about this bike now that I look at it. These wheels I got off Bikes Direct. You can get these set of wheels, Bikes Direct, with the brake discs. They came with it too, and a set of Maxxis Rambler tires. A set of wheels for through axle wheels. Came with 38mm tires on its stock. I got those for $330. They're like $299 plus tax and shipping. Came out to like $330, so those were good. And then ultimately, I gave the Maxxis Rambler, I sold the Maxxis Rambler tires to someone else, whatever. They were not super reliable. They're reliable in terms of they always got me home if there was a puncture, but I'd get a lot of punctures in them, or at least the back wheel was having issues. So in a time when my job was making a little bit more money, I was able to get upgraded tires. So I got the Specialized Pathfinder Pro, And I have loved these tires. These are pretty much my favorite tires that I've ever had on a bike. And as I'm able to afford more, I would pretty much put them on all of my bikes if I had the money. Like, I'd get a set of 47 millimeters for my Fazari because that can fit 50 millimeters, and I'd put a set of probably 35 on the Poseidon Triton that I have also. So Specialized Pathfinder Pro tubeless setup. The front one is tubeless. The back one used to be tubeless, but the tape kind of wore out after about 6 months, and I didn't have any more tape. I've since have had more tape, but because I don't take this off-road super epically, I just have left it a mismatch, which has worked out pretty well. The front one being tubeless is cool. The only thing I have to remember is the tire pressure tolerances are different, whereas the back one I'll pump up to about 60, 70, 80, and the front one I'll keep between 40 and 25. So yeah, that's it. That's my update of a review on the kind of after riding it for a year, the X. I would, if I had to get this bike again, I would get it again. In some ways, I think I'd probably, now that they sell frames of these, I'd probably just buy the frame. But I do like the fact that I bought the upgrade, because if I didn't, it wouldn't have come with such a long stem. I think the frames come with a shorter stem. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I think the stems are a little bit shorter. And with this upgraded stem, it was just so long that I think they mean for you to cut it, but I just didn't cut it. And I really love the riding position. This bike is cool because as a flat bar bike, it's still fast. Obviously, it's not like super duper fast, but it is still fast enough to where if you're looking at it in terms of your commuting, it's more than you need. I used to commute on my touring bike, which I think was ultimately faster, but I think rim brake bikes tend to be a little bit faster unless you're on a pro level. But for most of us layman riders who don't do competitions or anything, I think the added weight and bulk of a gravel bike with disc brakes is going to be a little bit heavier. The drivetrain is awesome. The back is a dinner plate 1148 at the back, 10 speed with a clutch, Advent X. And I will admit that the first Advent X, this is the second rear derailleur I've had. The first one I had to replace because it lost tension in it, and the mechanics don't really know why that happened. One of my theories is that I was new to gravel riding, and I probably have bumped and banged my rear derailleur on something and just been unaware of it. Since then, I've been a lot better at being careful of what I bang. You can even see some scrapes here, right? And I've fallen over 1 or 2 times before on the bike, so I've been a lot more careful since I have been aware of that one rear derailleur getting damaged. Also, I have changed the chain on this because one mechanic who I took it into, they said the chain was slightly short. It was like a few links too short, and so that was causing me some shifting problems. But ever since then, everything's been good. They also cleaned out the headset a little, this part here. And so, yeah, it's been good. It's been reliable. It's been an awesome bike. I was very wary about getting a 1x. It used to have a 38 chainring at the front. I switched that to a 40, so that might have had something to do with the shorter chain and it needing to be longer. But ultimately, 2 water bottle cages on it. Got a water bottle update. I did have a pump here. I left it on the bike by accident when I went shopping, so that was lifted. Someone stole that, so that was a bummer. But everything else, great bike. If you were thinking of a Poseidon X, I think it's super versatile. I think the way I've configured this bike is more for a touring commuting setup. so it's not going to maximize as much speed. And obviously, because the fork has an uncut neck on it, it's going to put me in a really, really upright position. But it's been super comfortable. The only thing I would say that I wish this bike had is the geometry is such that there is a toe overlap. And so in really tight spaces, that can be a pain in the butt. Whereas one thing I didn't say in the Triton review is that there is no toe overlap, which I really like. And so I'd be interested with the Triton to put some gravel tires on it and take it off-road a little bit. I definitely would want, if I had any choice of tire to put on it, I'd probably put on the Pathfinder Pro, because I feel like it's the best in between if you're doing mostly pavement, which is what I do. I do mixed surface, but most of it is pavement. So there isn't that much gravel that I ride, even though I wish there was more. There's just not a ton of it. So ultimately, these are really fast on the road for me. You know, I think if you're riding a gravel bike, it's not going to be as fast as you want it to be. If you want it to be as fast as a straight up road bike, but it's fast enough for me. And also I can get up the hill and see these beautiful sights. So I'm gonna keep riding. Thanks for watching.